today.
Roll. I gotta blow my shofar. Sometime today. Okay. Is that your alarm?
Yeah. We have to
Give me one of those.
Okay.
Got it? Thank you, sir. Okay.
It's my alarm for medication. I didn't bring it.
Oh, no. Hey, Giovanni, you didn't bring?
Gabrielle, my wife, Gabrielle.
I didn't.
Gabriel, that's
Thank
it.
you, sir.
Hey, Giovanni.
This one.
Okay.
Winnie's around.
Are we
I
ready?
don't know. I turned off.
Hold on.
You don't have to stand unless you want to do it.
Make it through there.
I just need you to set that down so I could have that.
So when I see where these land, my brain goes someplace else because of the song. For
Yeah,
the last,
me too.
you
It
know,
was just.
Yeah, years, a lot longer than, yeah.
Finally, help.
You ready?
11.
Hey, Joe.
Out of every tongue and nation, kings of grace to Elohim. Your precious blood was shed for us, and now we are made clean. Worthy, worthy, worthy.
All right, page 22. Amen. Father Yahweh, thank you for allowing us to gather together on your Sabbath day. Father, throughout the week, you've shown us love. You've helped us when we needed it. Father, we ask that you visit with us, send your spirit, and give us understanding, give us eyes to see, give us the strength to follow in your footsteps. Mm-hmm. We give thanks and ask all of this in Yeshua's name. Blessed is he who comes in the name of Yahweh.
All right, welcome. We've got several visitors here today. That's wonderful. We always enjoy it when we have visitors. And I'll do some announcements. By the way, the music that we use here was developed several years ago by several sisters, many of which have passed on now. So that's why you'll see some different music here that we use. For prayer and praises, we have a little board up here on the door here. If you just take a piece of paper and write it up there and pin it up there, we capture those and we send those out in the weekly email. If you'd like to be on the email, see Joe or Frank or any of the elders here or Joe's wife, Deborah there, she's the one that actually does it for us. We'll get you on that list. Torah reading, if you're interested in reading Torah, we have a list up here. You can just sign your name up there, and we'd love to have you. Just a reminder to silence cell phones if you have them. And the next new moon will be the 30th of January. That'll be the 11th month. Sun sets about 5:18. And so we'll be meeting about 5 p.m. here. So for those of you that are new here, we observe the new moon each month here, and we congregate together. It's just a fellowship. We'll have some light refreshments, and we go out and sight the moon and blow shofars and stuff like that. So it's something enjoyable we do, I think. And Julie's going to be reading Torah for us today, so I'll turn the time over to her.
Morning, everybody. We're starting off in Exodus today. Exodus 1. 1. Now these are the names of the children of Israel which came into Egypt. Every man and his household came with Jacob. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin. Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. And all of the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls, for Joseph was in Egypt already. And Joseph died, and his brothers and all that generation, and and the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and grew exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph, and he said to his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falls out any war, they join also with our enemies and fight against us. And so get them up out of the land. Therefore, they did set over them taskmakers to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh treasure, cities, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. And they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor, and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field, and all their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor. And the king of Egypt spoke to the Hebrew midwives, of which the names of one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah, and he said, When you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women and see them upon the stools, if it is a son, then you shall kill him. But if it is a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared God and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men, children alive. And the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said to them, Why have you done this thing and have saved the men, children alive? And the midwives said to Pharaoh, Because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively, and they are delivered before the midwives come into them. Therefore, God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and grew very mighty. And it came to pass, because the midwives feared God, that he made them houses. And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, Every son that is born you shall cast into the river, and every daughter you shall save. And there went a man of the house of Levi, and took to a wife a daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived and bore a son. And when she saw him, that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months. And when she could no longer hide him, she took him for an ark of bulrushes, and daubed it with the slime and with pitch, and put the child therein, and she laid it in the flags by the river's brink. And his sister stood afar off to know what would be done to him. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maidens walked along by the river's side. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." And she said to his sister, to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call you a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for you?" And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." And the maid went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse it for me, and I will give you your wages." And the woman took the child and nursed it. And the child grew, and she brought him out, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses. And she said, "Because I drew him out of the water." And it came to pass in those days, when Moses was grown, that he went out to his brethren and looked on their burdens, and he saw an Egyptian smiting a Hebrew, one of his brethren. And he looked this way and that way, and when he saw there was no man, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And when he went out on the second day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strove together and said to him that he did wrong. "Why smite you your fellow?" And he said, "Who made you a prince and a judge over us? And intend you to kill me as you killed the Egyptian?" And Moses feared and said, "Surely this thing is known." Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water and filled the troughs to water their father's flock. And when the shepherds came and drove them away, but Moses stood up and he helped them and watered their flock. And when they came to Reuel, their father, he said, "How is it that you have come so soon today?" And they said, "An Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us and watered the flock." And he said to his daughters, "And where is he? Why is it that you have left the man? Call him that he may eat bread." And Moses was content to dwell with the man, and he gave Moses Zipporah, his daughter. And she bore him a son, and he called his name Gershom, for he said, "I have been a stranger in a strange land." And it came to pass in the process of time that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel groaned by reason of bondage. And they cried, and their cry came to God by reason of the bondage. And God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And God looked upon the children of Israel, and God had respect unto them. Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the backside of the desert and came to the mountain of God, even to Horeb. And the angel of Yahweh appeared to him in a flame out of the midst of the bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Moses said, "I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt." And when Yahweh saw that, he turned aside to see God. God called out to him in the midst of the bush and said, "Moses, Moses." And he said, "Here am I." And he said, "Draw not near here. Put off your shoes from off your feet, for the place whereon you stand is holy ground." Moreover, he said, "I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob." And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God. And Yahweh said, "I have surely seen the affliction of my people which are in Egypt, and have heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters. For I know their sorrows, and I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land to a good land, and to a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Pezerites and the Hivites and the Jebusites. Now, therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel has come to me, and I have also seen the oppressions which the Egyptians oppress them. Come now, therefore, and I will send you to Pharaoh, that you may bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt." And Moses said to God, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh, that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt? That I should bring forth the children, out of Egypt." And he said, "Certainly I will be with you, and this shall be a token to you that I have sent you. When you have brought forth the people out of Egypt, you shall serve God upon this mountain." And Moses said to God, "Behold, when I come to the children of Israel, and shall say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they shall say to me, what is his name? What am I to say to them? And God said to Moses, I am that I am. And he said, thus shall you say to the children of Israel, I am has sent me to you. And God said moreover to Moses, thus shall you say to the children of Israel, Yahweh, God of your fathers, and the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is my memorial unto all generations. Go and gather the elders of Israel together and say to them, Yahweh, God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob, appeared to me, saying, I have surely visited you and seen that which is done to you in Egypt. And I have said, I will bring you up out of the affliction of Egypt to the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, to a land flowing with milk and honey. And they shall listen to your voice, and you shall come, and you and the elders of Israel to the king of Egypt. And you shall say to him, Yahweh, God of the Hebrews, has met with us. And now let us go. We beseech you 3 days' journey into the wilderness, that we may sacrifice to Yahweh our God. And and I am sure that the king of Egypt will not let you go, no, not by a mighty hand. And I will stretch out my hand and smite Egypt with all my wonders, which I will do in the midst thereof. And after that, he will let you go. And I will give this people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. And I shall come to pass that when you go, you shall not go empty. But every woman shall borrow of her neighbor and of her dwells, and of her that dwells in her house, jewels of silver, jewels of gold, and clothing. And you shall put them upon your sons, upon your daughters, and you shall spoil the Egyptians. And Moses answered and said, behold, they will not believe me, nor listen to my voice, for they will say, Yahweh has not appeared to you. And Yahweh said to him, what is that in your hand? And he said, a rod. And he said, cast it on the ground. And he cast it on the ground, and it became a serpent, and Moses fled from before it. And Yahweh said to Moses, put forth your hand and take it by the tail. And he put forth his hand and caught it, and it became a rod in his hand, that they may believe that Yahweh, God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has appeared to you. And Yahweh said furthermore to him, put now your hand into your bosom. And he put his hand into his bosom, and when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow. And he said, put your hand into your bosom again. And he put his hand into his bosom again, and plucked it out of his bosom, and behold, it was turned again as his other flesh. And it shall come to pass, if they will not believe you, neither listen to the voice of the first sign, that they will believe the voice of the latter sign. And it shall come to pass, if they will not believe also these two signs, neither listen to your voice, that you shall take of the water of the river and pour it upon the dry land, and the water which you take out of the river shall become blood upon the dry land. And Moses said unto Yahweh, O my Lord, I am not eloquent neither before nor since you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow to speech and of slow tongue. And Yahweh said to him, who has made man's mouth? Or who makes the dumb or deaf or the seeing or the blind? Have not I Yahweh? Now, therefore, go. I will be with your mouth and teach you what to say, what you shall say. And he said, O my Lord, send, I pray you, by the hand of him whom you will send. And the anger of Yahweh was kindled against Moses, and he said, is not Aaron the Levite your brother? I know that he can speak well, and also, behold, he comes forth to meet you. And when he sees you, he will be glad in his heart. And you shall speak to him and put words in his mouth, and I will be with your mouth and with his mouth, and will teach you what you shall do. And he shall be your spokesman to the people, and he shall be to you instead of a mouth, and you shall be to him instead of God. And you shall take this rod in your hand with which you shall do signs. And Moses went and returned to Jethro, his father-in-law, and said to him, let me go, I pray you, to return to my brethren which are in Egypt, and see whether they are yet alive. And Jethro said to Moses, go in peace. And Yahweh said to Moses in Midian, go, return into Egypt, for all the men are dead which sought your life. And Moses took his wife, his sons, and set them upon a donkey, and he returned to the land of Egypt. And Moses took the rod of God in his hand. And Yahweh said to Moses, when you go to return into Egypt, see that you do all those wonders before Pharaoh, which I have put in your hand. But I will harden his heart that he shall not let the people go. And you shall say to Pharaoh, thus says Yahweh, Israel is my son, even my firstborn. And I say to you, let my son go, that he may serve me. And if you refuse to let him go, behold, I will slay your son, even your firstborn. And it came to pass, by the way, in the end, that Yahweh met him and sought to kill him. Then Zipporah took a sharp stone. Did I miss a page? Okay. Then Zipporah took a sharp stone, cut off the foreskin of her son, and cast it at his feet, and said, surely a bloody husband are you to me. So he let him go. Then she said, a bloody husband you are because of the circumcision. And Yahweh said to Aaron, go into the wilderness to meet Moses. And he went and met him in the mount of God and kissed him. And Moses told Aaron all the words of Yahweh who had sent him, and all the signs which he had commanded him. And Moses and Aaron went together, all the elders of the children of Israel, and gathered together all the elders of the children of Israel. Excuse me. And Aaron spoke all the words which Yahweh had spoken to Moses, and did the signs in the sight of the people. And the people believed, and when they heard that Yahweh had visited the children of Israel, and that he had looked upon their affliction, then they bowed their heads and worshipped. And afterward Moses and Aaron went in and told Pharaoh, thus says Yahweh, God of Israel, let my people go, that they may hold a feast to me in the wilderness. And Pharaoh said, who is Yahweh, that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I know not Yahweh, neither will I let Israel go. And they said, the God of the Hebrews has met with us. Let us go, we pray you, 3 days' journey into the desert, and sacrifice unto Yahweh our God, lest he falls upon us with pestilence or with sword. And the king of Egypt said to them, why do you, Moses and Aaron, loose the people from their work? Get to your burdens. And Pharaoh said, behold, the people of the land are many, and you make them rest from their burdens. And Pharaoh commanded the same day the taskmakers of the people and their officers, saying, you shall no more give the people straw to make brick as before. Let them go and gather straw for themselves. And the tally of the bricks which they did make before you shall lay upon them, and you shall not diminish anything thereof, for they are idle. Therefore they cry, saying, let us go and sacrifice to our God. Let there more work be laid upon the men, that they may labor therein, and let them not regard vain words. And the taskmasters of the people went out, and their officers, and they spoke to the people, saying, thus says Pharaoh, I will not give you straw. Go you, get you straw where you can find it, yet nothing of your work shall be diminished. So the people were scattered abroad throughout all the land of Egypt to gather stubble instead of straw. And the taskmasters hurried them, saying, fulfill your works, your daily tasks, as when there was straw. And the officers of the children of Israel, which Pharaoh's taskmasters had set over them, were beaten and demanded, why have you not fulfilled your task in making brick both yesterday and today as before? Then the officers of the children of Israel came and cried to Pharaoh, saying, why deal you thus with your servants? There is no straw given to your servants, and they say to us, make brick, and behold, your servants are beaten, but the fault is in your own people. But he said, you are idle. You are idle. Therefore you say, let us go and do sacrifice to Yahweh. Go therefore now and work, for there shall no straw be given to you, yet shall you deliver the tally of bricks. And the officers of the children of Israel did see that they were in evil case, after it was said, you shall not diminish any from your bricks of your daily task. And they met Moses, and Aaron stood in the way, and as they came forth from the Pharaoh, and they said to them, Yahweh, look upon you and judge, because you have made our scent to be abhorred in the eyes of the Pharaoh, and in the eyes of his servants, to put a sword in their hand to slay us. And Moses returned to Yahweh and said, Lord, why have you so evilly treated this people? Why is it that you have sent me? For since I came to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has done evil to this people. Neither have you delivered your people at all. And we're moving on to Isaiah 27, starting in verse 6. He shall cause them that come of Jacob to take root. Israel shall bloom and bud and fill the face of the world with fruit. Has he smitten him as he smote those that smote him? Or is he slain according to the slaughter of them that are slain by him? In measure, when it shoots forth, you will debate with it. He stays his rough wind in the day of the east wind. By this, therefore, shall the iniquity of Jacob be purged, and this is all the fruit to take away his sin, when he makes all the stones of the altar as chalk that are beaten in pieces. The grooves and images shall not stand up. Yet the defenced city shall be desolate, and the habitation forsaken, and left like a wilderness. There shall the calf feed, and there shall he lie down, and consume the branches thereof. When the boughs thereof are withered, they shall be broken off. The women come and set them on fire, for it is a people of no understanding. Therefore he made them will not have mercy on them, and he that formed them will show them no favor. And it shall come to pass in the day that Yahweh shall thresh from the channel of the river unto the stream of Egypt, and you shall be gathered one by one, O you children of Israel. And it shall come to pass in that day that the great trumpet shall be blown, and they shall come which were ready to perish in the land of Assyria, and the outcasts in the land of Egypt, and you shall worship Yahweh in the holy mount at Jerusalem. Woe to you, the crown of the pride of the drunkards of Ephraim, whose glorious beauty is a fading flower, which are on the head of the fat valleys of them that are overcome with wine. Behold, the Lord has a mighty and strong one, which as a tempest of hail and a destroying storm, as a flood of mighty waters overflowing, shall cast down to the earth with the hand. The crown of pride, the drunkards of Ephraim, shall be trodden under feet. And the glorious beauty which is on the head of the fat valley shall be a fading flower, and as the hasty fruit before the summer, which when he that looks up on it sees, while it is yet in his hand, he eats it up. In that day shall Yahweh of hosts be for a crown of glory, and for a diadem of beauty unto the residue of his people, and for a spirit of judgment to him that sits in judgment, for strength to be them that turn the battle to the gate. But they also have erred through wine, through strong drink, are out of the way. The priest and the prophet have erred through strong drink. They are swallowed up of wine. They are out of the way through strong drink. They err in vision. They stumble in his judgment. They stumble in judgment. For all tables are full of vomit and filthiness, so that there is no place clean. Whom shall he teach knowledge? And whom shall he make to understand doctrines? Them that are weaned from milk and drawn from the breasts? For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little, there a little. For with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to his people, to whom he said, this is the rest with which you may cause the weary to rest, and this is the refreshing, yet they would not hear. But the word of Yahweh was unto them precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little, there a little, that they might go and fall backward and be broken and snared and taken. Now we are in Romans 16. I commend to you Phoebe, our sister, which is a servant of the congregation which is at Sincera, that you receive her in the Lord as becomes saints, and that you assist her in whatever business she has need of you, for she has been a succorer of many, and of myself also. And then in Hebrews 11, Verse 23. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hidden 3 months by his parents because they saw he was a proper child and they were not afraid of the king's commandment.
To John 15. I am the true vine. Oh, let me get this first. John 15, verse 1. I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that bears not fruit, he takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, he purges it, that it may bring forth more fruit. Now you are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. Abide in me, and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abides in the vine. No more can you, except you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He that abides in me, and I in him, the same brings forth much fruit, for without me you can do nothing. If a man abides not in me, he is cast forth as a branch, and is withered, and men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, you shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. Herein is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit. So shall you be my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Continue you in my love. If you keep my commandments, you shall abide in my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things have I spoken unto you, that my joy might remain in you, that your joy might be full. On the night that he was betrayed and arrested, Yeshua went over his coming arrest one last time with his disciples. He had been teaching them and leading them to this point throughout his ministry, but they had failed to get the point. So now, before it occurs, Yeshua rehearses for them again the fact that he would be taken away from them. John 13:33, little children, yet a little while I am with you. You shall seek me. And as I said unto the Jews, whether I go, you cannot come. So now I say to you. He told the men that he was going to a place to which they would be unable to follow. And this disturbed them greatly. How could this be? How could it be that the man to whom they had given their lives and for whom they had forsaken all was now going to go away, and they would not be able to follow him? Yeshua quickly began to put their minds at ease in chapter 14 as he explained that he was going to be with the Father, and that he would prepare a place there for them, and that in time he would return to get them. But for now, they were to remain behind. Near the close of chapter 14, Yeshua explained that after he was gone, the Holy Spirit would be sent to be with them. He would teach them and lead them and comfort them. Whether the disciples realized it or not, this Holy Spirit would be a greater blessing to them than the actual physical presence of Yeshua. Because now he would always be present with them. Wherever and whenever they labored, they would do even greater works than Yeshua had done during his ministry. Truly, truly, I say unto you, he that believes on me, the works that I do shall he do also, and greater works than these shall he do, because I go unto my Father. John 14, verse 12. No doubt the disciples were still saddened by the news that they were receiving that night. They were hearing Yeshua, but they weren't getting how that after he was gone from among them, they would still go on and, more than that, not be sad by it. Well, Yeshua had the answer. And in chapter 15, he uses an ordinary vine. Whether it was a grapevine or some other is not the point. He was using the vine and its branches and fruit to illustrate the only way they were going to know the kind of joy and fulfillment that life can bring with Messiah. In fact, he says in verse 11 that the things he was saying in verse 1 through 10 were said in order that his joy might remain with them, that their joy might be full. In John 15, verse 11, these things have I spoken unto you, that my joy might remain with you, that your joy might be full. Yahweh's desire has always been and still is today for his children to experience great joy in this life. No doubt all humanity wants the same thing, and certainly the disciples wanted it. But the problem is that Yahweh and man have different ideas about how that is going to be accomplished. The disciples' idea of experiencing joy had to do with the physically enjoying the presence of Yeshua and having a hands-on religion, a religion of touch and feel and see and know. Theirs was the same idea as that of man today. Religion today is still based on touch and feel and on see and know. It's about what a man can experience and get out of the deal. It's the John 6 kind of religion that is great to have so long as bellies are being filled, but it's forsaken at the first hint of hardship. That's so different than Yahweh's idea of religion. Yahweh doesn't really want religion at all, but rather a life of faith and devotion to him. And if true believers can understand Yahweh's plan for experiencing joy and practicing it daily in their lives, then they can and will experience the joy that comes only from above, the joy that satisfies the dry and thirsty soul. Do you want that kind of joy? Is it lacking in your life? You can't produce it, so there's no use in trying. The kind of joy for which your soul longs for will only be found with Messiah. According to Paul in Galatians, it is a fruit of the Spirit, something that he works out in your life as you rightly relate to him. So how do you do that? Yahweh doesn't just have joy set aside for certain people. Everyone can experience it, but only when they observe and apply the things Yahweh taught. Let's consider three things Yeshua pointed out that will lead to your experiencing joy the way he intends. In verse 1, Yeshua said, I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Then in verse 5, he says, I am the vine, you are the branches. There it is. Father Yahweh is the husbandman. It is he who owns it all and controls it all. Yeshua is the true vine. And we as believers are the branches. What a great truth. Yeshua is the true vine, and we are merely the branches. By making this statement, Yeshua implies that there are other vines, yet he is the true one. If we're going to have life, the kind of life we find in John 14, verse 6, and in John 10:10, then we will only find it in Messiah, the true vine. John 14:6, Yeshua said unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes unto the Father but by me. And in John 10:10, the thief comes not but to steal and to kill and to destroy. I've come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. People all over the place in false and true churches are attempting to find life outside of Messiah. That is, they're trying every means they have available to them to produce a quality of life that they think will bring them joy and fulfillment. But Yeshua tells us in this passage that we will only find that life with him. Yeshua isn't speaking about salvation here. He's addressing people who profess to be saved already. He's telling these saved people how to go about finding life. So what are some of the other vines to which people try to connect themselves? Some try to stay connected to popularity for joy and fulfillment. Others try riches and fame. Folks try to find it in marriage and other relationships, in recreation, in work. And most all men and women try religion of some flavor. But all at times or another try different ways. But as Yeshua pointed out, a man can gain the whole world, have everything there is to have, and yet when it's all said and done, he's left with nothing. He's lost his own soul, meaning that he's wasted his life searching for something in the world that only Yeshua Messiah can give. Yeshua made it clear in verse 5 that apart from him, we can do nothing. He's not talking about us not being able to eat or drink or go to work or watch TV. What he is talking about is that there is nothing we can do apart from him that will have any eternal value. Nor is there anything we can do on our own that Yahweh will find acceptable and pleasant. If we're going to get to the Father, then it's going to be through Yeshua. Solomon found this out. He was a man with unlimited resources, a wealth of potential, unparalleled wisdom, and he searched the world over, and as he attempted a great variety of things to find fulfillment and joy in living, he discovered that it was all vanity. It was useless, and leaves a man just as empty as he was in the beginning. The whole duty of man, he discovered, was to love Yahweh, and to put it in the words of Yeshua, to be a branch that remains with him. We are branches. That's it. As children of Yahweh, we are not the husband, nor are we the vines. Our place is in the believer's life is to stay connected to the vine and allow him to bear fruit through us. That's it. That's all. That may sound not too thrilling, but regardless of our personal feelings about our position in life, the reality is that we as believers are completely and utterly dependent upon Yahweh and Yeshua, his son. Our place in the scheme of things is to be branches. We are servants, not masters. We are slaves, not the owners. We are the creation, not the creator. You see, Yahweh has rights to every one of our lives because everything there is rightfully belongs to him as the Almighty Creator. But even more than that, he has rights to our lives because he bought and paid for them with his precious blood of his only begotten Son. We were nothing to Yahweh except for offense, rebellious sinners. And yet, in spite of what we were, Yahweh gave up Yeshua for what we could be. But that's not all. Yahweh has rights to our lives because he is the creator. And yes, he has rights because he bought and paid for us, but he also has rights to our lives because at some point in time, as believers, we willingly chose to make him the Lord of our lives. We gave him that right. We recognize our place then in salvation, and there was no greater sense of joy and fulfillment to us. Now we must continue to recognize it in our daily living. If we are to continue to experience joy from above. In John 15:2, every branch in me that bears not fruit is taken away, and every branch that bears fruit he purges it, that it may bring forth more fruit. John 15:3, now you are clean through that word which I have spoken unto you. While the King James text uses the words purge and clean, the meaning is to prune. Remember that Yeshua is speaking to saved people. The lost are not under consideration. So when we read that there are some branches that aren't bearing fruit, that will be taken away. John's not talking about Yahweh separating lost people from among the saved. He's talking about removing those branches that are useless and are taking up space, taking up valuable resources that could be better used for those branches that are producing fruit. He says that the branch, the soft, flexible, and pliable portion of the vine that does not bear any fruit, he takes it away. It's not just discarded, but it's placed among other dead branches. Could be that all of the places that Yeshua can take you, you don't want to go there. As believers, as children of Yahweh, as men and women in whom the Spirit of Yahweh resides, we ought to want him to take us to heights we've never known, to want him to take us to opportunities only dreamed of, to take us to areas of ministry we've never seen before. The husbandman, Yahweh, takes the dead branches away, and those branches are taken away because they are dead. They don't produce any fruit. You can understand that Yahweh makes perfectly good sense. Dead branches take up good space. Dead branches don't give praise. Dead branches waste time. Dead branches complain all the time. Dead branches are stumbling blocks to someone else. Dead branches gossip all the time. Dead branches talk holy and walk unholy. Dead branches need to be removed, but it's not the job of the other branches to do the removing. That's the work of the husbandman. You can understand that there are branches here that are producing fruit, but even the branches that are bearing fruit experiences pruning. The Greek word suggests that Yahweh will clear out or cleanse. He will remove things from the vine that are hindering its good and proper growth and ability to produce more and even better fruit. Every one of us, as Yahweh's children, has things in our lives that hinder our spiritual growth and ability to bear that kind of fruit for which Yahweh is looking. The writer of Hebrews told his readers to lay aside every weight that hindered them. And when we recognize those things, we ought to lay them aside. But very often we don't recognize the sin in our lives. We have blind spots and areas in our lives that keep us from growing and producing fruit. So Yahweh goes to work and prunes out those things. He suggests to you that this may be an explanation of what Yahweh is doing in your life. It may not be, but there is a possibility that it is. You lose things, people, possessions that are close to you, not to hurt you, but to take you to a higher level, that you may become very productive, that you may produce more fruit. He may allow you to lose loved ones. He may allow you to lose your job. He may allow your friends to turn their backs on you. He may allow you to lose your health. He may allow you to lose your home. Whatever distractions are keeping you from serving the Lord, Yahweh says, for his own sake, I've got to prune or cleanse or clean your branch. But we are being pruned, not for our pain, but that Yahweh would receive glory. When Yahweh gets finished pruning on my life, he will receive the glory. And when he gets finished with me, my life will give him glory. My ways will give him glory. My songs will give him glory. My prayers will give him glory. My giving will give him glory. And I will experience joy in my life because of Yahweh's pruning work like I've never experienced it before. Not because the pruning was pleasant, but because it was necessary in order for me to be more productive for the Master. In John 15:4, abide with me, and I with you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself except it abide with the vine. No more can you, except you abide with me. Abide with Messiah. That sounds real spiritual, but what does it mean? The word abide comes from a word that means to continue, to stay or dwell. Perhaps one of the simplest ways to think about that is just to ask yourself this question. How does a branch get the sap it needs without staying connected to the vine? The answer to that question is the answer to our question of how we are to abide with Messiah. You see, we are to stay connected to the Messiah, to stay hooked up with him, to dwell with him, to continue with him. Yeshua mentioned a few things in verses 7 through 10 that will help us. In John 15:7, if you abide with me and my words abide with you, you shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. In other words, we need to get into Yahweh's word on a continual, regular basis. We need to have a consistent plan of regular Bible readings or Bible study or Bible memorization, a meditation on teachings and how they apply to our lives. We need to allow Yahweh's word to get into our lives and allow it to influence everything we think or say or do. It's to be the filter through which we view all of life and the standard by which we live it. We must maintain an active prayer life. Yeshua mentioned asking what ye will of the Father. He's speaking about a habit of prayer, a habit that is all too often lacking in the believer's life. How in the world can we expect to experience the joys of living, of abiding with Messiah, if we fail to do the simplest of things such as prayer? Believers need to be praying, people, because people who aren't praying are just playing. In John 15:9, as the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Continue you in my love. Yeshua plainly taught that this was the second greatest commandment, second only to our love for Yahweh the Father, our husbandman. If we are going to experience joy, If we are going to be satisfied in this life, then we are going to have to love people. But it is not a forced love, as in, I don't like them, but I have to love them. This is the love that flows from maintaining the right love relationship with our source of love. It's about staying connected to the one who provides us with all of our resources. It's clear that on our own, we lack the capacity to love the unlovable. But in Messiah, we can love all people, regardless of who they are or what they have done. We can only love others as we rightly love Yeshua. Notice it is the love of people, not the sin that they do. John 15:10. If you keep my commandments, you shall abide with my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide with his love. This may sound like a repeat of the first thing mentioned earlier, but it's not. How often we find believers who can quote the Bible and who know the doctrines of Yahweh's word, and yet they struggle in their application of that word. If we're going to experience what good things Yahweh has in store for us, then we need to not only know the word, but also obey the word. We need to do the things we are told to do and not do those things which are forbidden in the scriptures. So what happens when a child of Yahweh refuses to abide with Messiah? What happens when a believer is not bearing fruit in his or her life? That child of Yahweh is of no use in Yahweh's kingdom purposes. He or she has chosen not to abide, not to continue, or to stay connected. So they must be cut off and set aside. You might think it tragic that Yahweh would resort to such measures, but we can be sure that this is never his first choice. How patiently Yahweh waits while he invites such a believer to get his act together in gear and put himself in a position where he is able to bear fruit. There are always those whose lives can be observed over a period of time, years perhaps. The question always comes to mind, are they really saved? It's an awful question to have to ask of any professing believer. But the reality is that there are many who are professing, but who are not possession. You may claim to be saved, but it is your life and works, the fruit that you do or don't bear, that ultimately tells the truth about your claim. If people are just living a lie and you know that they have never accepted Yeshua as their Savior, then not only are they not connected to the vine, they are completely unable to be connected unless they do something about it. One need to recognize that without Yeshua, you are completely lost and unacceptable to Yahweh. You have no way to earn his favor or to merit salvation. You stand condemned before a holy and righteous Father. However, if one realizes your lostness, then you can be saved. But one must confess their condition to Messiah and be repentant concerning your sin, be baptized in the name of Yahweh and Yeshua, and trust Messiah to save you, and he will. Some of you may have been lacking the kind of joy about which the Bible speaks. This is not a joy that comes or goes with the wind, but it's sure the lasting, so long as you remain connected to the vine through such things as prayer and Bible study, things such as loving others and being obedient to the word of Yahweh. Have you been connected? Have you been longing for that which you do not have? Has there been something missing in your life because of wrong or hurtful choices? Yahweh wants you to experience a joy that goes beyond our understanding. The way is clear and it's not easy. But the choice is yours to make. Yahweh's not going to force you to choose joy, nor is he going to argue with you about the difference it can make, and it will make in your life. He's inviting you to reason with him and to know whether you've been connected to the vine and what you are willing to do about it if you are not. With that, Yahweh bless. Page 96.
Mine back there.
96.
Give it to you. Yes, all my life. Give it to you. Give me the smallest job. I'll make the mountains move. If you take my life, teach me how to be. Give it to you. And though I give myself to you, what good thing have I done? For I can't cause my heart to fear or make my feet to ground. But you turns me up to give. In your strength I must say, oh Father, hold me close. Yes, I say, give it to you. Give it to you. Yes, I want my life. Give it to you. The smallest job. I'll make the mountains move. If you would take my life and teach me how to be, give it to you. If you will give me wisdom, sir, and make my spirit fly to understand your way of love and peace, oh my Most High. Holding you until at last the world will see your Son. Oh Father, hold me close. Victory is found. Give it to you. Give it to you. Yes, I want my life. Give it to you. Give me the smallest job. I'll make the mountain move. And you will take my life and teach me how to be. Give it to you.
Amen.
Father, we thank you for this day. Thank you for the word that you've given us. We ask that you planted it deep within our hearts. Help us to live it in our daily lives. Help us to be the light of your word shining forth into this world. It's a growing darkness. Use each and every one of us as your instrument and your tool, wielded in your hand, so that we in our lives will be a light that draws those seeking you and to your Son. And in that way, we may be your servants. We ask that you bless the food we're about to receive, use it to nourish our bodies and strengthen us and further us in the service of your work. And we ask all of this in the name of your holy and precious Son, Baruch Habab Hashem Yahweh. Blessed is he who comes in the name of Yahweh. So be it.